again, everyone, and welcome back to Wrestling Ramble. This week on the program, let's start off with, once again, NXT. Last week's show was carryover from the NXT London program, and it primarily featured two matches. First, we saw a 4-team tag team single elimination match, which featured the Vaudevillains, the team of Jason Jordan and Chad Gable, the BAMF, Murphy and Cowboy Wesley Blake, and the fourth tag team was the Hype Bros, Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder. All four teams, they worked their asses off. The crowd in London, of course, was really hot, carryover from the week that was previously. And in the end, it was Jason Jordan and Chad Gable going over. And Gable and Jordan look to be in control as any tag team I've seen in recent memory. Once they move up to WWE, because I guess the term main roster has become taboo for some reason, once they move up to Raw and SmackDown, they're going to be hard to stop. Their work is impeccable. On this particular platform, they absolutely outshine every other tag team in the ring. I'll be interested to see if Gable and Jordan get to have a program with the other extremely hot tag team in NXT. That's, of course, Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy. Maybe they'll save it for SmackDown and Raw, who knows? But regardless, I think Gable and Jordan are meeting everyone's expectations, and there's no reason why they won't become the next NXT Tag Team Champions, if not Cass and Enzo. The other match of the evening of the NXT program was the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger facing off against the Pride of Montreal. It was the return of Sami Zayn. And Sami had an opportunity to speak a little bit, both before and after the match. And having not seen Sami on screen for a few months, I was reminded pretty quickly of why this guy is more than likely going to take Raw and SmackDown by storm when his time comes, which is right around the corner, I have to think. He is absolutely captivating when he has a microphone. The way he talks, his inflection, his body language, and most importantly of all, the fact that he's so genuine. Everything he says to me feels absolutely real. And of course his work in the ring is impeccable. Needless to say, he goes over. And I'm looking forward to seeing Sami on a regular basis once again. I'm sure we're going to be seeing him in a high-profile program with someone. You better believe he's going to have fantastic matches once he's paired up against Apollo Crews. Also last week on the show, we had a Super SmackDown for WWE. Super SmackDown, of course, being WWE's annual live program. Truth be told, I only ended up watching about half the show. I saw the first match, which was, I was busy because of Christmas. The first match featured the New Day facing off against the Lucha Dragons. Lucha Dragons have been receiving a bit of a push recently. They, every opportunity the two of those guys have had, they've more or less taken control of it. Of course, Sin Cara does mess up from time to time. I think it's his mask personally, but everything Kalisto has done in recent memory has been just stellar. The kid has taken every opportunity, like I said, and ran with it. And this match on Super SmackDown was, I have to admit, typical fare for Lucha Dragons, which was more exciting, high-paced Lucha action, and New Day does a great job of selling, of course. But in the end, it was Big E hitting the big ending for the finish. The only other match of the evening that I saw was the Usos in action against two members of the League of Nations, Rusev and Alberto Del Rio. And the Usos continue on in their program with the League of Nations, which more or less features them getting beaten up all the time because they're outnumbered, and this night was no exception. For a team that gets beaten up all the time and have, not really won anything recently, have been injured a lot, it's really surprising that the fans still recognize them as the tag team of the year. Maybe the New Day faction aren't as popular as we think they are. I don't know. All I know is that recently on the program, I have been saying that there's no reason why Usos won't become the next WWE Tag Team Champions. At this rate, I don't see any reason why that still won't be true. I feel like they're just taking their bumps for the time being so they can assure themselves a top tier spot in the near future. Aside from that, like I said, didn't watch any more of that program. Let's take us to this week on Raw. The show started out once again with the boss, Vince McMahon. Vince, large and in charge in the middle of the ring, and doing more or less what he did last week, except without the limo introduction. I guess they just felt compelled to just cut straight to it. Vince was less imposing this week. It's almost as if he was a little bit cowing to Roman Reigns. Once Roman Reigns inevitably did appear in the ring, all he really had to say was, "I had to get dental surgery." He wasn't as accusatory or acidic as he was previously. I think it's in an effort to make Roman seem more intimidating. But at the end of this segment, which I'll get to in a moment, Roman really only ended up seeming more lighthearted and funny, and maybe even a little bit trolly, but not particularly intimidating. Vince continued grousing as he did. Then Stephanie comes out and grouses a bit more, and she calls for the police to come and arrest Roman once he puts his hands on Vince McMahon and gives him a little push. Which is funny considering that little push he gave him was a lot less than the Superman punching that he gave him last time.
My neck!
Yeah. Vince seemed like he was going to call his lawyers, but as soon as the police showed up and then threatened to put the cops on him and Stephanie, he said, "I'm fine. I'm okay now." Even still, Vince went to jail and got booked, and there was even a mugshot. I think it's safe to say that Vince, being part of the New York high society, but the fact that the WWE, WWF, and the WWF previously all operated for quite a while in the New York area, I think it's safe to say that Vince McMahon and his family have pretty special treatment wherever they go there. And well deserved, no doubt about it. So aside from that silliness at the beginning of the show, there was two premiere matches in the evening. The first was extremely short. It was WWE's new breakout star of the year, Neville, facing off against the Beast, Kevin Owens. And shockingly, Neville won in less than a minute. Who saw that coming? Kev, needless to say, didn't react very favorably and got to work on the small Englishman. Kev beat on Adrian Neville about as hard as anyone I've seen getting beat on in quite some time. And I think it was appropriate simply because Kevin in recent weeks keeps talking about, "I'm going to put him in the hospital." And he keeps making all these big claims, but he never actually follows through to the fullest extent possible. And I'm really glad that now he has finally started to follow through. At first, we saw him and Neville get into a very one-sided altercation. Dean Ambrose comes down, more or less the same. Dean gets a little bit of offense in, and then that's it. Kevin goes to work on the lunatic fringe, as he had promised before. And I'm really glad that Kevin is starting to follow through and present himself more as a monster heel and less of a comedy act who is willing to get Coca-Cola splashed in his face and talk about how he'll eat popcorn every week. Even though I'm sure he probably actually does eat popcorn every week. Aside from that, this week's show was fairly light on matches. The only Divas match of the evening featured Ireland's Becky Lynch against the boss Sasha Banks. And Sasha was very over. The Brooklyn crowd appreciated her presence, very, very approving of her. But the crowd, even still, was fairly merciless. And when they weren't happy with the action, a couple of times throughout the evening, they strongly and loudly said, "This is boring." And they said it once during the Divas match. They even said it, if I'm not mistaken, once during the main event. The Brooklyn crowd was relentless. But even still, they were into it, and it was a sellout crowd. And I think WWE, at the end of the day, just wants the audience to be interested in the program, first and foremost. Aside from that, there was a segment called Miz TV. You've probably heard of it. It was fairly forgettable until, surprisingly enough, Big Show came out. In the ring, it was a collection of lower card superstars, including Heath Slater. Heath got a chance to talk, and he promptly got punched in the face by Big Show, when he came out, cleared the ring, and declared himself the first entrant in this year's, or 2016's Royal Rumble. And a little bit later in the program, we'll talk about what our predictions for the Royal Rumble will be. But aside from that, the only other thing, there's two other matches in the evening. One was The Rock's cousins facing off against the League of Nations. And as my producer so correctly pointed out before the program began, Barrett, wrestling for League of Nations alongside Sheamus and Rusev, didn't hardly do anything. He was protected, and I believe that's because of his injury. And so be it. The Rock's cousins didn't really present too much of a threat, and in the end, it was Sheamus getting the W. Which takes us right to the main event, where it was the fourth member of the League of Nations, Alberto Del Rio, getting goaded into a United States title match against John Cena. The crowd was really hot for Cena. Bitterly divided as always. Is there anywhere in the world where they're not bitterly divided? Even in his hometown of Boston, there's still quite a few people that chant Cena sucks. But hey, once again, like I said, they're into it. They're interested. It was an exciting match. It could have gone a little bit longer, but I had a really good time watching it. In the end, Cena did not go over. The League of Nations interfered and prevented a clean finish, which meant Alberto retained his title because of the champion's advantage. Altogether, for the last Raw of the year, which featured Vince McMahon being freed and brought back to Raw just before that show ended, just in time. How convenient. Altogether, the show was pretty good. Not the best Raw of the year, but I think retrospectively, this episode of Raw could stand as sort of like a representative allegory of all the Raws that were this past year, and I think I've watched them all now, to be perfectly honest. It was pretty good, not perfect. There could have been more wrestling, and there was maybe a little bit too much more silliness than I felt was necessary, and Vince was almost certainly responsible. Vince, Uncle Vince, I love you, you're great, but I'm sure you can't be happy with that little allegory I just described, and I'm sure I'm not too far off base in my description. Which takes us to the end of the program. And like I talked about, we are going to take a little bit of time here, right before we celebrate the end of 2015, to discuss our thoughts, our feelings, and our predictions for 2016's Royal Rumble, January's pay-per-view. The main event, needless to say, I'm sure is going to be Roman Reigns defending his World Heavyweight Championship against somebody. And I guess Sheamus is entitled to a rematch. Isn't he? Or, yeah, I guess he is. You know, that's just kind of how that works. So that's a safe bet, or maybe that'll happen sometime later. I'm not sure. But regardless, I'm pretty sure Roman's going to be in the main event, defending his title against somebody. Not Brock Lesnar. But as far as Big Brock goes, I'm pretty certain that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble, and it's a pretty safe bet he's going to win. I have a feeling that Brock is going to be entrant number 2, and he's going to F5 Big Show clean out of the ring, and then clear house after that. And that's really the Royal Rumble. Done. Entrant number 30 might even be somebody cool like Kevin Owens. Oh my goodness, Kevin Owens will be in the Royal Rumble. And then Kevin will face off against Brock. Oh my goodness. John, how about, check it out. It's going to be Kevin, Brock, and Bray Wyatt. Maybe even Braun Strowman will be in there as well, all in the ring at the same time.
They could fulfill the fantasy that we've been waiting for ever since they debuted.
Yes, the fantasy of one of those guys gorilla pressing one of the other guys. It's a safe bet that Braun Strowman could probably gorilla press all of them.
We'll have to see.
Who do you think is going to win the Rumble?
I mean, it's a safe bet that Brock Lesnar might take it back, but I mean, Kevin Owens is a pretty good contender.
Yeah, I agree. So, who do you think entrant number 30 will be? My thinking on entrant number 30 is going to be John Cena.
I'd be so sad if it's John Cena.
It's probably going to be John. Who do you think it's going to be?
I really hope it'd be someone cool like ADR or something.
Alberto's number 30.
Yeah.
That could be good. Yeah. For
Or
sure.
Damien Sandow.
Is Curtis Axel gonna get into the Royal Rumble this year?
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, probably not.
When was the last time you even showed up, anyways?
When we saw him at that house show in August,
Yeah.
I believe he was tagging with Damien Sandow.
Yeah.
And that's the last time we saw Curtis. Actually
yeah.
in a ring.
Now all you see is him crying on Twitter.
Yep. Non-stop tears. And there are no tears here, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely not. Altogether, I'm pretty happy with the year that was in 2015. Let me know how you thought your year was. Drop me a line. Leave a comment below. What's my predictions for 2016 for WWE? I'll make 3 right now to end off the program. Prediction number 1, I believe that Sasha Banks is going to become WWE Divas Champion before long. And I believe she's going to have a lengthy reign because Team Bad is poised to become the female New Day, to be perfectly honest. And they honestly serve basically just kind of as, you know, muscle for Sasha, which is fine. I have a feeling she's going to win that title very soon, and she's going to keep it for a considerable period of time. Prediction number 1. Prediction number 2, I believe that Brock Lesnar, like I said, is going to win the Royal Rumble, and he's going to main event WrestleMania, and he's going to be facing, I guess, Roman Reigns. I mean, Roman Reigns probably isn't going to lose to Sheamus at Royal Rumble, and then Sheamus versus Brock main event. That, I mean, could happen, I guess. Maybe between now and then, somehow, some way, now that Kevin Owens isn't a champion, he will work his... Kevin isn't a champion, he can work his way into the world title picture. Last year at the Royal Rumble, we saw one of 2015's absolute best matches in the form of Seth Rollins versus John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Wouldn't it be cool if we now saw another triple threat this year, Royal Rumble, and it was Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar versus Kevin Owens? That could be really fun.
That'd be pretty impressive.
Could be good. And my third and final prediction is about retirements. And I'm going to tell you who I think is going to hang them up in 2016. I think Undertaker will finally officially retire. I have a feeling that Kane will finally officially retire, which is fine. Good for Kane. That's my theory. I have a feeling that Big Show will actually go one more year because he's Big Show. He will not retire out of spite because people tell him to retire. And I think the world's strongest man, Mark Henry, is going to hang him up and just go back to weightlifting. Right before I sign off for the program, what was the best match of the year for WWE? In my personal opinion, I think it easily could have been that Royal Rumble main event, Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins versus John Cena. What was the best NXT match? Probably Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor for the NXT title when Finn went over and became the champion. What was the best Divas match? My personal favorite, honestly, it was Emma versus Asuka at NXT TakeOver London. It was a phenomenal match. I loved every second of it. I drank it up. Yum, yum, yum. That's wrestling. Best tag match? It was, of any WWE tag match, it was Gable and Jordan versus Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. A match that anybody who saw, I know, would agree with me on. And finally, what was the absolute best moment of WWE's programming for 2015? I don't know how it couldn't be something Seth Rollins related. You take your pick. Seth hitting the elbow on Brock Lesnar. Seth holding 2 belts at the end of the summer there. Seth and his statue. Seth wearing the white costume. But I think we can all agree the best moment of 2015 was Seth Rollins standing tall with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at the top of the ramp, WrestleMania 31, with the fireworks going off as the sun sets. And the sun has now set on this week's episode and the year that was in 2015. Thank you very much for joining us once again on the program. And we'll be seeing you once again on the show next week in 2016.